Hey, what's up? Paul Nee. I'm a professionallystrong.com. I want to help you become the best and strongest version of yourself. And in this video, we're going to talk about some concepts to help you figure out exactly how to achieve your fitness goals. And this is a continuation of our last few videos where we talked about helping you to figure out exactly what it is that you want, getting real clear, still clear with that stuff. And the last video, we talked about helping you to figure out why it is that you want it. Very important to help when those down times, when you're really lacking that motivation, knowing your why really helps you to keep going through those tough times. And if you haven't checked out those videos, make sure you go back and check those out. Very, very important stuff. But like I said, in this video, we're going to talk about the how. Now, I'm not going to get into too many specifics because I think programs, nutrition programs, workout programs, they're highly individualized based on what your goal is, based on what your starting level is, based on any injuries or mobility limitations you might have, any allergies to food you may have. I think those can get very specific, and those could be a topic of a whole different video. But in this one, I want to talk about the most important concepts in all of this stuff that if you just follow these, even if your program is not super specific, you will still get some results, still go in the right direction and make some progress towards your fitness goals. So when you're trying to achieve any kind of health and fitness goal, I think it comes down to three main areas: your workouts, your nutrition, and your rest and recovery. And you need all three of these things working in conjunction with each other to get you the best results. And if you do all three of these things really, really well, you can achieve some amazing, amazing results. Let's get to that first one, your workouts. Now, the most important thing that you want to consider with your workouts is that concept of progressive overload. Now, what is progressive overload? Real simple. It just means that over time, your workouts need to be getting harder and harder. Very simple, but it is neglected. I see this a lot in the gyms. You know, and if you've been to a commercial gym, you've probably seen these people that come in, they do the exact same thing every single time, or they do the exact same program. They've been on that same program for a long time, and they may have seen some really good results in the beginning, but after that, it just kind of plateaus, or they're kind of sliding backwards because they're not challenging their body enough. So what do you need to do for progressive overload? It doesn't need to be every single workout getting harder and harder, but it just means that over time, it needs to get harder, because some days you're going to feel really good and be real strong and have a real kick butt workout, and then other times you're not going to feel as good and you're just trying to get through it. It happens. So there's going to be variations. You know, there's going to be lower intensity days, there's going to be moderate intensity days, and then there's those high intensity days where you're really pushing it. And it's going to go like this, but it should go up over time and not just remain stagnant, because if you're remaining stagnant, your body's not being forced to adapt. And it's these adaptations that really get you the kind of results that you want as far as your workouts. So what is it exactly that you should be progressively overloading in your workouts? Well, for most people, your workout is going to boil down to two main areas, and that is your resistance training and your cardio. Now, let's talk about resistance training first, because for me, that's the most fun. Now, what is resistance training? Well, basically, anytime you're doing a movement and you're being resisted, that's resistance training. So if I'm doing like a bench press and I have some free weights resisting me, that's resistance training. You could use a machine to resist you, cables, bands, even if you're just doing your body weight, you know, like having gravity pull you down is a form of resistance training. Now, what exercises do I like the best? For most people, now this is assuming that there's no health problems, there's no injuries, there's no mobility issues or anything else that would limit this. But for most healthy people, I like compound movements, no matter what your goal is. Now, compound movements are these big exercises that are working many joints all at once, which means you're also working a lot of muscles at once. So this is going to help with strength. This is going to help with fat loss. This is going to help with muscle gain. It's going to help with every single one of these things. And that is why I like to use big compound movements. Plus, as far as time, if you're really limited as far as time, because you're working a lot of joints and a lot of muscles at once, your your workout is a lot more effective. So what do I mean by cardio? Well, basically you're finding a way to engage your cardiovascular system. You're finding a way to get that heart beating a little quicker. You're working your lungs because you're breathing harder because of that. You're getting more blood flow throughout your body, and it's providing a lot of benefits to the body. Now, depending on your goal, if you're strapped for time, this may be something that you can cut out, but it still does provide benefits. So if you have the time, I still would recommend doing some form of cardio because it does work at heart. The heart is one of the most important muscles in the body. Now, what do I recommend for my clients? Normally, there's two different forms of cardio that I recommend to them based on their goals. The first is steady state, and the next is HIIT. Now, steady state, what is that? Well, basically, your intensity is around the same for the whole workout, and you're just doing it for a certain duration of time. I like to do this before a workout, just to get a little bit of sweat going before I get to my main workout. It's also very good for a lower intensity cardio day because, if you keep going high intensity for a long period of time, eventually your body's gonna burn out. So you want to vary your intensity with your cardio, and steady state is a very good low intensity cardio day. To get a lot of benefits though, you will have to go for a longer duration. I think the more efficient way to do cardio is with HIIT. Now, I wouldn't recommend this in a warm-up, but if you're trying to burn the most fat in the least possible time, I think the high intensity interval training is the best way to go. And it is high intensity, so it is difficult, but you're not going for a long period of time. Normally about 10 seconds to 30 seconds, just going as hard as you can, and then you get a rest period, maybe a minute, maybe less. Again, it depends on your goal, but this rest period could be just a total rest, or it could be a lower intensity. So you're going hard, and then you're going slowly. And that's a good way to do a HIIT. And this is really beneficial for fat loss. It's also really beneficial for someone that wants to improve their endurance. All right, so let's talk about your nutrition. Because whether or not you get to your goal, your nutrition is going to be a huge factor in that. The foods you eat, very, very important. Now, there's a lot of different ways you can do this. There's a lot of diets that work, and let me talk about some of the concepts from each one of these because whether you're gaining weight, losing weight, getting stronger, whatever your goal is, there's some key things that you need to consider and are universal to every single program. The first one is calories. Calories in, calories out, law of thermodynamics, and everybody has a certain amount of calories that they burn throughout the day, just moving around and your body running with your organs, your brain. You burn calories. And if you go above that, you're going to gain weight. If you go below that, you're going to lose weight. So the amount that you take in is important, but it's also very important what you take in. So that's going to come down to your macronutrients, protein, carbohydrates, fats. I think everybody needs an adequate amount of protein. The general rule for a long time has been 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. I know there's bodybuilders that go way above that. And then there's studies that show that you don't need that much. But, if you want to be safe, I think 1 gram per pound of body weight is a decent level that you can start with. And then if you want to really get specific, you could fine tune that. But the thing that you're going to want to manipulate, depending on your goal, is your carbs and your fats. And everybody's body reacts differently. There's different diet programs out there that work. In general, lower carbs and higher fat if you want to lose weight, and then higher carbs and lower fat if you want to gain weight or get stronger. Because I think you do need carbs if you really want that top end max rep strength. So what else is there to consider when thinking about your nutrition? Well, the main thing is to not eat crap. Now, what do I mean by crap? Well, there is a anagram on the internet that I think describes it pretty well for the most part. I don't agree with the first one because it says C stands for carbohydrates. It depends on your goal. Carbohydrates is not necessarily bad, not the enemy. It might not be in your nutrition plan, so you might need to avoid it. But for most people, especially if you're trying to build muscle, if you're trying to build strength, you do need carbs. So carbs, not the enemy. Refined sugars Refined sugars is very bad. There's no benefit that I could see for refined sugars. I mean, sometimes bodybuilders will raise insulin levels with this, but outside of certain instances, for most people, refined sugars, not good. Avoid sugar, avoid added sugars to your food because it does not benefit most people. Artificial foods, I think this is self-explanatory. Eat real foods. Don't eat fake foods. Same thing with processed foods. The only exception I would say to this processed foods though is if you have a really good protein powder, because sometimes it's just easier to have a protein shake than to have real foods, just because of time-wise, and you could eat more. But if you have the option and time, real foods always better than fake foods. And the last thing I want to talk about as far as nutrition is alcohol. Now, I know some people like to drink alcohol, but if you think about it, other than some enjoyment in maybe a social setting, it does not provide any benefit to the body. It actually hurts the body, just like refined sugars does. A lot of long-term effects that this gives the body, not good. So if at all possible, avoid alcohol. The more you could avoid it, the better you're going to be health-wise, looks-wise, feeling-wise, because it does not provide a lot of benefit for you. And then the last part, which I think is equally as important as your workouts and nutrition, but is also very neglected, is your rest and recovery. So let's think about this. When you work out, that's when you send the signals to your body that it needs to change. And you're breaking down your muscle tissues, and then you provide the nutrition to your body to give it that fuel that it needs to start to rebuild, to start to get your muscles. And then when you're resting, that is when the muscle building is done. That is when the fat burning is done. A lot of the fat burning that you do is while you're sleeping. So sleep obviously is one of the most important things. It's also when you build the most muscle. There's a lot of hormone regulation that goes on there that helps with all your results as well. So sleep, very important. Don't neglect that. Very important to get a good sleep. What else is there as far as recovery? Well, you need to do some soft tissue work if you really want to avoid injuries. Now, what is this? This is foam rolling. You could roll with a PVC pipe like I do. You could get specific spots with a lacrosse ball. And if you think about it, if you compress any area of your body, there should be no pain. And if there is pain when you compress it, that means there's something wrong. It could be something simple that you could just roll out with a lacrosse ball, or it could be something that you need to see your doctor about, but there should be no pain when you compress your muscle. And you want to work out some of these tender spots, some of these adhesions, just because if you let these go on, it could lead to some imbalances in the body, which could lead to injuries down the road. And working out is not just about results now, it's about results long term. So the more of this recovery work that you do, the more of this rolling and soft tissue work you do, the more you're going to be able to avoid injuries and work out long term. The other thing that we need to consider with your rest and recovery is the actual time between your workouts. Now, there are exceptions that you could work out more often, but for most people, the general rule is about 48 hours of rest between body parts. So if I'm working out on Monday, the next time I want to work that same muscle is probably going to be on Wednesday. Like I said, there are exceptions to this, but in general, you do want to give your body enough time between workouts so it can recover and you could get the maximum amount of results. So those are the main things you're going to consider when thinking about how you're going to get to your fitness goal. And those are, again, workouts, nutrition, rest and recovery. But there is one more thing, and that is, what is it going to cost you to get to your goal? And I'm not just talking about money, but joining a gym does cost money. Buying the right food does cost money. If you want to buy something that's going to make your life a little more convenient so that you could do those things, it will cost money, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about what sacrifices are you going to have to make in order to implement your plan. Going to the gym, it takes some time. You're going to have to sacrifice time from some other area of your life in order to go to the gym. Eating right. It's not always easy, especially if everyone around you is eating bad, or if all your coworkers are going out drinking and you say, no, I'm not going to drink this time. I'm going to have water instead. it's going to cost you something. It might cost you some enjoyment, might cost you something, to go to sleep early or do some recovery work. It's going to cost you time with other stuff. So knowing this, it is important. The reason that I think this is important is if you know what it's going to cost you before you even start, it will be easier when you start to have to make these sacrifices. So think about it. What is it going to cost you for you to implement your program? Write it down. And that is it. I hope this video helped you. If it did, share this with all of your friends, with all of your coworkers, your family, anybody that you know that wants to be a little healthier, wants to get in better shape. Let them know about this video. I hope it helps them as well. If you want more content, make sure you subscribe to this channel and join the notification squad. Like this video and leave a comment. Let me know how you're doing as well. Everything with this video. And if you want daily motivation, Instagram, I'm on there every day. If you want to reach out to me, that's a good place to reach out to me as well. And if you want show notes for this episode and outline to help you detail some of this stuff and go through some of these things and work out how you're going to get to your goal, there is some notes on the website, professionallystrong.com. There is a link in the description. I will see you next time. Again, I am Paul Niyama, and I want to help you become the best and strongest version of yourself.